If you clicked here looking for some new Welsh fiction, welcome closer. You have arrived in the right place. I'm Cari and I am going to be doing a little reading vlog of some of the newly released Welsh fiction this year. I have 3 books that I'm hoping to read in this vlog. Let me tell you quickly about them. The first is The Crazy Truth by Gemma Howell. This is about a main character who is growing up in the 80s and she's having a pretty rough time of it. She gets embroiled in drugs and alcohol and a pretty shady scene until she discovers a love of writing and becomes a poet. This sounds like a bit of a wild ride, and the author I think is a poet herself, so I'm hoping for some really beautiful language in here, but we'll see. So that's The Crazy Truth by Gemma Howell. I also have The Unbroken Beauty by Rosalind. I keep saying this. The Unbroken Beauty of Rosalind Bone by McCarthy. This is set in a sleepy village, seemingly nothing much going on, but underneath there's lots of tensions, and a 16-year-old girl starts to question the past and the story that she's been told by her family, including her reclusive mother. She learns about a lost aunt, I think, who is our very beautiful Rosalind Bone. This cover is so stunning. It's just very, very beautiful. So that's The Unbroken Beauty of Rosalind Bone by McCarthy. And last but not least, we have Neon Roses by Dawson. This is set in a mining town in South Wales in the 80s amongst the mining crisis, and a group of people come from London. They're all from the queer community to support the miners in their strikes. I think it's a bit of a queer love story and sounds wonderful. So those are our 3 books. Not deliberately, but all female Welsh authors too. So that's an added bonus. I will let you know how I get on with these.
Good morning, it's Saturday and I'm on my way to meet a bookish friend for brunch and a little bit of book browsing. Kasia is somebody I know on Instagram and we met at the Tandem Collective's Wellbeing Weekend in January up in Nottingham. She lives just over the border in Bristol, so I'm heading over there to meet her this morning. This is August and it's overcast, grey and drizzly, but we move. So I will take you with me for some of that. We'll see. I'm not going intending to do lots of book shopping because I really shouldn't. There's nothing that I desperately need, but you know, when in Rome. So I will let you know how we get on with that.
Mi sy'n fach gen ieuanc ffôl yn byw yn ôl fy ffansi. Mi fi'n bigeli ar gwenith gwyn ac arall yn ei fedi. Pam na ddeudi ar fy ôl rhyw ddydd ar ôl ei gilydd, gwaith rhywun dy weld y feinir fach yn lanach lanach beinydd. Codau sedd yw gyda'r wawr gan frysion fawr fy llidded, fel cawn gisan i ôl dy droed ar hyd y coed wrth gerdded. Coed fy mhen o'r galar maith a serchus iaith gwarineb, gwaith mwy na'r byd i'r mab athgar yw golwg ar dy wyneb.
Oh, did I have a lovely day with Kasia in Bristol today. We had cake and coffee and just went to lots of bookshops and it was wonderful. Went to Heron Books for the first time. I get their newsletter, which is really good. But it was really nice to go in there and chat to the bookseller there. We had a good chat with the bookseller in Waterstones too, and we went to lots of charity shops, and it was wonderful. So yeah, really, really nice day. We had bus drama on the way home. So our bus driver okay, so here's the tea. I was on the double-decker bus, sat at the top of the front because, you know, I can film going over the bridge and it looks nice. And we're coming up to a pedestrian crossing, and there's like a delivery driver on a moped in front of us, and he stops at the crossing, and the bus behind him does not stop and just keeps going, and then slams on the brakes and obviously like nudges him. So it wasn't like a full-on collision, but there was contact. So obviously at the pedestrian crossing then they're kind of like, everybody, so not everybody, the driver and the moped guy kind of like swapping details and stuff, and the guy who sat next to me on the bus is literally like oh, we're gonna be safe for ages now. And then so the moped driver kind of like takes some pictures and stuff, and then they agree to like pull forwards because we're literally sat in traffic just after a big roundabout. So they decide to pull forwards because I think the bus driver has like a form that he needs to fill out or something like that. So we do that once we get going, and as soon as this guy realizes we're stopping again, it was so funny. Like clearly there's been an accident, so they kind of need to stop and exchange details, like of course they do. Yeah, so that was the bus drama on the way home. I wanted to just talk briefly about the crazy truth. I haven't made much headway in this, and hang on, my arm is leaking, let me move positions. I'm finding it a little bit of a slog, and I've just been, while I've been pottering in the kitchen, thinking about why that is. And I think there's a few reasons. Getting this sort of critique out the way, I guess. I found the first kind of chapter or so quite overwritten. I think the author has been a poet, and usually that works really well, but in this instance there was like simile after simile after simile, and it was a bit kind of in your face. And I think to a degree there's an intention of that, because it's meant to be a really confronting read. You can like clearly tell that from the book. It's meant to be really confronting, but it just felt a bit much. So there's a little bit of overwriting. It has settled down a bit. The other thing that there is a lot of is onomatopoeia, and I loathe onomatopoeia, and there's a lot, like literally every chapter, and you know, kind of page after page. Let me see if I can find. It's quite often there's one slam there, but it's quite often in bold and repeated. Watch me not be able to find it, you know. Oh yeah, here we go. So like on the bottom of this page, it's, oh gosh, Cari, come on. It's in bold, buzz, buzz, buzz. And then over the page, there's more buzz, buzz, buzz. There's flump, flump, flump at the end. This is excellent filming. Yeah, there's just a lot, and I don't like it. So that's kind of just a personal preference. The other thing, I think, which isn't a criticism of the book, is it's grim. If you can hear noise in the background, it's Sam digging on the other sofa. You okay, pal? It's really grim, and you know, if you are somebody who needs to know about trigger warnings, essentially just assume that every single trigger warning you can possibly imagine is included in these first like 25 pages. It's rough, which is fine,
it's written, okay, so if you imagine the opposite of sugar coating, it's like grime coating. That's the best way I can describe it. It's like hard stuff described in pretty hard ways. I don't want to use the word raw because that's really wanky, but yeah, it's grimy, it's very gritty, it's visceral, and really courageous in that sense. And I think probably, given how heavy the world feels at the moment in general, I've also had quite a emotionally demanding week in work and outside of work, to be fair. So I think maybe I'm not in the best headspace to be reading something like this. So I guess I'm just bearing all of that in mind. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. I'm finding it a bit of a slog. Well, once I'm reading it, I'm okay, but I'm having to encourage myself. Oh, here we go. So this is the next page I've got to read. Yeah, that demonstrates it much better. It's just a writing style, right? Which I personally don't enjoy. So yeah, I'm pathologically unable to DNF books. It's a toxic trait, I know. Don't come at me about it. I know it's healthy to DNF books. I don't want to DNF it, I want to finish it because I think it's going to have a really good arc, knowing from the blurb where this is going. I really want that for this character, and I would like to see that side of the story, but I wonder if I'm in the right headspace for it right now. So I don't know, I might pause on it and pick one of the others up, or I might dig deep and crack on. Time will tell. Anyway, that's my update. I have nothing else to say. Good morning. It is a Monday, but I am off work almost all of this week. I'm back in work on Friday because we've got a family wedding on Wednesday, which is very exciting. But today I have lots of jobs to do, lots of chores and errands and stuff. So my plan is to do a job, read a chapter, do a job, read a chapter, and see how I get on getting through the rest of, what am I reading? The Crazy Truth. I did read another big chunk of it yesterday and it's sort of diluting. So I'm hoping we're moving towards a more hopeful ending. It's very hot in the UK at the moment. Well, hot for the UK anyway. We're having our 48 hours of summer right now, which is nice, but it's very toasty. So we're going to do a walk around the woods, hopefully most of it in the shade for the doggos. And then, yeah, that's my plan for the day. Job, chapter, and we'll see how we go. I have a really heavy headache right in the middle of my forehead, which I think is probably a tension headache. It's very close, and we had some weird rain this morning which felt like it was trying to storm but isn't, so I expect it's an atmosphere type headache or something like that. Come on, Brennenbach. Here he is. Yeah, so I'm going to enjoy my walk and hopefully get a decent amount of reading done today. I've just had an epiphany as I'm walking, recalling the
best part of a bottle of red wine that I drank last night. So I think I've solved the mystery of my headache. Forgot about that. Maybe self-inflicted. I forget what these are called, but they start off as white flowers, and then when they go to seed, they produce these little pods of seeds, which taste like burnt orange. They are rather nice. Kind of cardamom-y. It'd be good in a curry.
Holl am tair sir ddywedant ar hyd y nos. Dyma'r ffordd I frog o goniant ar hyd y nos. Golau arall lliw tywyllwch I arddangos gwir brydferthwch teulu'r nefoedd mewn tawelwch ar hyd y nos.
Houston, we have a problem. I have a wedding to go to tomorrow, and unfortunately the 2 pairs, not one but 2 pairs of shoes that I ordered to wear for the wedding have not arrived. So I am now off to Cribs, a mile close by, to go shoe shopping. Who even does that anymore? Who even goes to shops anymore? This is like very 1990s Cari, but that's okay. Yesterday all went as planned. I did my chores, I read a chapter, did a chore, read a chapter, so I've made really good progress in The Crazy Truth, and I'm hoping to finish it today. I've got a couple of chapters left to go, like maybe 40-50 pages, something like that, so hopefully we'll finish that today and we'll give you my final thoughts. But for now I need to go and find some shoes. Friends, this is why we shop online and don't go into shops. It's stressful, it's hot, there's people. But anyway, I have bought 2 pairs of shoes and 1 pair has arrived at home while I've been out, so I've now got 3 pairs and another set on the way. So we're okay for shoes now. I also remembered whilst I was there that I hadn't kind of got any jewellery. Sure, I could have managed, but I've bought about 10 pairs of earrings too, because that's what you do when you go to shop. So the moral of that story is be more organised, order your shoes on time so that you don't have to go to shops and people. So anyway, I'm done. I'm going to go for a recovery McDonald's now and head home and sort my life out, do my nails and get back to having the quiet day that I had intended. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye. I did it. I have finished The Crazy Truth. The author's note at the end was helpful. This book is not written for enjoyment. It's not written for entertainment. It's a statement about, well, hold please, let me tell you. A note from the author. The inception of The Crazy Truth stemmed from my PhD research in creative and critical writing. Originally conceived as a Kunstströmungen novel, don't know what that word means. Its evolution during the research process led to a broader narrative that encapsulates a multitude of voices and experiences. It transcends the individual to portray the collective struggles and triumphs of working class lives in contemporary Britain. The Crazy Truth is not merely a novel, it's an immersive exploration that challenges societal norms, amplifies marginalised voices, and delves into the complexities of post-industrial neoliberal society. As a contribution to feminist epistemology,
The Crazy Truth is an emancipatory undertaking seeking to unearth discrepancies between social ontology and historical realism. Shedding the light on the lives of working class people, my novel underscores the collective transformative power of storytelling and could be said to be a work of egalitarian concern, as it draws upon the lives of many characters who have been disenfranchised by mainstream society. While tracing the creative becoming of an emerging Chavette poet, the story brings to life 5 generations of familial relationship and its exploration of the rich and diverse lived experiences of working class people, illuminating the past origins and present conditions of discrimination, marginalisation and subjugation. So that's why this was such a demanding read in what it was setting out to achieve. It wasn't meant to be a piece of entertainment. It was a really strong statement, and in that it achieved what it set out to do. It was interesting reading that author's note, actually, because there were lots of timeline jumps. We centred around one character, but also explored some of her wider family, and there was lots of kind of bouncing about in time, which made it also quite a demanding read. I didn't begrudge it for that. It kind of kept me on my toes in that sense. There was also an awful lot of dialogue written in vernacular, in Welsh vernacular, or actually not just Welsh, sometimes Scottish. There was some Geordie in there, and again, that makes it quite an immersive but also demanding read. You know, sometimes you have to read a few of those sentences over a few times before it kind of clicks and you hear it as it's said, because it's written phonetically. Again, I quite enjoy that. I've talked to you about the onomatopoeia, which isn't my bag. What I haven't talked to you about is that this book is interspersed with, there's a little bit of mixed media in here, so it's interspersed with some poetry. And I really enjoyed that, and the poems are all in these shapes. What am I trying to say? I don't know. They're all formatted in different shapes. So as you can see, that one's about vodka. Let me find you another. There's a couple of bits of like childhood drawings in here too. Here we go, here's a good one. This is in the shape of a willy. But yeah, there's loads in here. And the poems were really great. I enjoyed them very much. There's a political one that I thought was very good. Divide and Rule, here it is. That's in the shape of a rocket or a bomb. That was excellent. So this was a really interesting read. It's not a book that I'm going to recommend, not because I don't think it's good, but because it's not something that should be widely recommended. If you're particularly interested in classism, and this was all written sort of in and around about kind of Thatcher's Britain, so if you're interested in that time period, there's kind of like mention of miners' strikes, but it's more about the kind of day-to-day lives of these working class characters and how they're sort of held down really by society, and particularly the women in this book, how they're held back by the patriarchy. It is not for the faint-hearted. There is some grim content in here. So if you are somebody that needs to take care of yourself in terms of what you're reading, then do pay more attention to that and check that out. And if I've literally been the first person to review it or put it onto Storygraph, so if you want to ask about anything in particular, then I'm happy to answer questions. So yes, that's The Crazy Truth. I feel, I don't know if you can hear that, the starlings have just pitched up in the garden. They are like our local mafia. They arrive in their droves and kind of kick off and fight and shout at each other around the bird table. Quite entertaining, but also very noisy. So yeah, I feel a sense of accomplishment in having got through this. It was not an easy read, but I'm glad to have read it. Next, I have Neon Roses by Rachel Dawson. This is described as tender, sexy, uplifting and fun, and that is very much what I need after the crazy truth. Something uplifting and something fun. So this is available on audio on Spotify, so I expect I'll do a bit of tandem reading. I'll read some and listen to some, and I'll let you know how I get on with that. Tomorrow is wedding day, not mine, our niece's. I'm not planning to vlog that for obvious reasons. It's a family wedding, but if there's like pictures or if there's an opportunity to take a little bit of video, I'll do that. I'll try and show you my outfit here. I've got a great hat. So yes, I'll see you on the other side of the wedding and let you know how I'm getting on with Neon Roses.
I'm wedding ready. I have spent a long time curling my hair this morning, and because it's hot and humid, it's gone flat already, but we're okay, it doesn't matter. Here are the shoes. We're all set. Wish us luck. See you on the other side. Hello, I am here to give you a quick update. I finished Neon Roses, flew through this. It's joyous. If you are looking for a book that is a big queer cwtch, this is it. It's delightful. It's about Elined. She has grown up in the Welsh valleys. All the men in her life are currently on miners' strikes. So we're in the kind of like 80s Thatcher territory. And in support of the miners who are striking, the lesbian gays support the miners are raising money for them. So a group of queer folk in London are helping to raise money to support the miners whilst they're on strike. And it's kind of a, you know, we're all marginalised communities, we can help you, you can help us kind of thing. It's beautiful. If you haven't seen the film Pride, I'll put a picture of the of what that looks like here. If you haven't seen the film Pride, I'd really recommend watching that, because that kind of captures this moment in history, which is just beautiful. But that's where we're starting. Excuse me, door. I'm back. That was the shoes that I ordered for the wedding that I attended on Wednesday arriving. So just a few days late. Never mind. Anyway, so Neon Roses. That's Elined, and a community of folk come up from London to hand over some of the money that they've raised to this Welsh mining town in the valleys. And that's where Elined has an encounter with a lesbian, which changes everything for her. And the rest of this book is just her unearthing this side to herself, this queer side to herself, and exploring with really gentle curiosity her own sexuality and queerness. It's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous. So yeah, really loved that. It was a very easy on the eye in terms of easy to read. It was quite sexy. The characters were lovely. They were sort of like minor stakes, but nothing traumatic in here. It was just a really lovely story. So that was a perfect balm after reading the sucker punch that was The Crazy Truth. I have read one chapter so far of The Unbroken Beauty of Rosalind Bone by Alex McCarthy, which is my next and final book for this vlog. Do you know, it's interesting. I think these are all debuts, and they're all very, very different. What a rich reading experience I'm having. This feels very accomplished straight away. The first chapter reads a bit like Under Milkwood by Dylan Thomas. It's got that kind of small community feel, and we are narrated in and out of different houses and homes and very intimate moments in these characters' lives in this first chapter, with incredibly beautiful poetic writing. I've got really high hopes for this. It's very short, so if you're looking for something for shorty September, may I already recommend The Unbroken Beauty of Rosalind Bone, because it's both short, it's Welsh, and if the first chapter is anything to go by, it's going to be a really lovely read. So that's where we're up to with the reading sitch. It's a Monday today, which means, so Johanna over at Me, My Dog and Books has just started working a compressed week. So she's having Mondays off, and we've called them Magic Mondays because there is such joy in having a Monday off work when everybody else is going back to work. It's my day for getting errands and chores done. It's my day for kind of resetting and having to myself. I really love a Monday. So I have a big long list of jobs to do. I've had a very slow start to the day, so I best crack on. I forgot to say about Me on Roses that I listened to some of it on audio, and I'd really recommend the audio. I don't know who narrated it, but the narration was superb, really beautiful, sing-song Welsh accent, exactly what you want from a book set in South Wales. It was just absolutely banging, and there's also some like Midlands accents too that she nailed. It was really super. So if you're interested in Neon Roses, and I hope you are, then I'd really recommend the audio.
Nid wy'n gofyn bywyd Moises A'r y byd neu berlau man Gofyn rwyf am galon hapus Calon onest, calon lan Calon lan yn llawn daioni Tec a chiwn ar lili glos Dim ond calon lan all gani Canu'r dydd a chanu'r nos Pedamin o'n olydd bydol Chwym a denau sydd o sydd Golyd calon lan rinweddol Yn dwy'n bysol elw fydd Calon lan yn llawn daioni Tec a chiwn ar lili glos.
I've just got back from the library and I'm getting ready to film my shorty September TBR, but I thought I'd show you what I picked up. Graham Norton Forever Home. This is a book club pick. No idea what it's about. And I picked up Shadowstitch by Cari. Now this is another new Welsh piece of literature that's come out this year, but look at the bloody size of it. She will not be reading that in this vlog. This is the sequel to the, what's it called? Don't remember, I'll put a picture in. There's been a first book and an accompanying novella that's come out. The accompanying novella was called Hedgewitch, and I loved that. It was adorable. And this is the second in a series. Cari is also a Welsh author, as I say, but look at the size of it. Hang on, how many pages? Hold, please. 655. It's enormous. That's going to be a future. Oh, there we go. There we go. Thread Needle. Thread Needle is the other book. There we go. They're lovely. It's witchy literature. They're really, really fun, these. So I would recommend them, but this will not be being read anytime soon. Look at the size of it. Shorty September TBR incoming.
Bwyd i'r nef ar adain can ar I ddew mwyn fy ngeidwad Rosie mi galon lan.
I'm back to tell you that I have finished The Unbroken Beauty of Rosalind Bone by Alex McCarthy. This was gorgeous. Was it perfect? No. Do I care? No. Did I give it 5 stars? Yes. I really, really loved this book. I had that experience of when you're getting towards the latter section of a book, you both have that sense of wanting to read more and more, but also not wanting to pick it up because you don't want it to end. And I think that's always a really good sign for me that I've loved a book. And that was certainly the case for this. It's set in a small Welsh village and we're introduced to the community through Catrin Bone. She's a 16-year-old girl living with her agoraphobic mum. And there's this weird situation about a missing aunt. There's a photograph in a kitchen drawer of Catrin's mum's sister. And nobody knows what happened to Rosalind, the sister. We also get insights into other people's lives in the village, and we're introduced to them usually through the eyes of another character. So our first impressions are always somebody else's judgment, which was a really clever way to introduce the characters, because you see them really superficially to start off with, and then you get a chapter from their perspective, and either you understand them better, you understand their motivations better, or you are exposed to some deep dark secret that they're withholding from the rest of the village community. There were quite a few different perspectives in this book, and for a short book I think that's unusual, but it worked. All of the characters were incredibly distinct. One of my favourite characters potentially of all time, but certainly recently, was Mrs. W in here. Mrs. W is the owner of the corner shop, and she's a cantankerous, cardigan wearing little old lady. But like I said, you first see her from somebody else's eyes, and that's the impression that you're given, and then you see her perspective and you learn an awful lot more about Mrs. W. At the heart of this story is a broken family, torn apart by secrecy and trauma, and it's their journey to understanding that better and potentially recovering some of those relationships. It was, yeah, absolutely brilliant. I loved this book very much and I heartily recommend it. So that is the end of my reading New Welsh Lit. I've read 3 incredible but very, very different books. The Crazy Truth was a real kind of sucker punch to the face repeatedly every time I picked it up. It was incredibly powerful. It's not one that I would recommend to everybody, but if you want really viscerally, I hate using the word raw, but it is, look at trauma and like essentially the ripple effect of childhood trauma, that it doesn't just happen in isolation, it has impact on that person's behaviour and that person's interactions and so on, and you know, you have this kind of like ripple effect throughout that person's life. This book captured that really well. Then you had Neon Roses, which was just a really lovely, warm book about self-discovery and queer identity. It was really, really gorgeous. And yeah, I can't speak more highly of The Unbroken Beauty of Rosalind Bone. This was a really, really smashing read. So thank you so much for joining me. If you're still here, please pop a little Welsh flag in the comments so that I know that you've been and you've watched all the way till the end. If you've been reading any Welsh literature, I'd love to hear about it, or if any of these have piqued your interest, let me know which one. And I'll see you again in the next one. Look after yourselves.